Welcome back to the School Transportation Nation podcast. I'm Tony Corcoran, the publisher and president of School Transportation News. This episode is brought to you by Transfinder, the leader in school bus routing software. Our tech tip is brought to you by Zonar, and our brand new maintenance tip is brought to you by Cummins.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ryan Gray, editor-in-chief of School Transportation News. Everyone by now should have been heading over to stnonline.com to read our November issue, where we all meet Todd Watkins, the director of transportation over at Montgomery County Public Schools in Rockville, Maryland. Congratulations to him. He is the School Transportation News Transportation Director of the Year for 2020. Great article on what he's doing over there. They're closed until, sounds like, about February, one of many school districts across the nation that have not gone back to in-person class. I think his team is transporting about 15 special needs students to in-person class, but everyone is at home. So it's been an extremely challenging year for him, and he runs a great ship over there at Montgomery County. A lot of folks know him. He speaks with our associate editor, Taylor Hannon, in that article. So want you guys to all head over there and check that out. Also, we are less than a week away from TSD Virtual. So with all the closures happening with COVID-19 and no live events this year, we've gone virtual. We had the Bus Technology Summit in September, and now it's TSD Virtual time. So head over to tsdconference.com to get the latest on the schedule. Sign up this week by Friday, November 6th at $199 to secure your spot.
Thanks, Ryan, and welcome back to the podcast. Taylor held it down last week for you, so I thought it went really well. She did a great job, so you always know you can take a vacation every once in a while.
She did a great job. Yeah, I checked that out last week. Some great conversations that you and she had. So I'm glad to be back. I'm glad that I still have a spot here. I figure that, she's doing such a great job. I'm going to be obsolete here pretty soon.
You never know. You never know. Well, hey, I also want to give a shout out to Todd Watkins. I've been talking to Todd for a while now. He's an awesome guy, very deserving, leadership by empathy. Definitely take Ryan's advice. Check out that November issue. Check out the article. It's really great. It gives you a deep dive into, how he takes care of his people, his students, the parents he serves, the family that they've created over there in Montgomery County. So it's just really fabulous editorial. Congrats to Todd again, Transportation Director of the Year 2020. And what a year it has been. There's so much going on. And this episode, I want to bring you a tech tip to kick things off today, which is brought to you by Zonar, a leader in smart fleet management. Picture this: your driver or in-house tech updates a Cummins engine at his own or her own convenience while in the yard or on a route. While using the free mobile app Zonar OT Air, any authorized personnel can download the latest Cummins Engine software update in little as 5 minutes. Anytime, anywhere, completely remotely, no in-person contact required, and no cost. Learn more at zonarsystems.com/OTAir. That's zonarsystems.com/OTAir. All right, we have got Antonio Civitella joining us for a little podcast banter. Let me bring him on. Tony, welcome.
Hello, everybody. Good afternoon, good morning, wherever you guys are located around the world, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, these days, that's how podcasts work. And Mr. Ryan Gray is going to jump in too, and we're going to talk to Tony a little bit about, what's kind of going on out there in the world. How are school transportation professionals adapting to the use of technology, adopting technology, looking at shared resources? There's just driver shortages. There's so much going on. I mean, Tony, what can you give of the audience about kind of just trends you're seeing? Transfinder's been a technology trailblazer for years and years in this industry. What do you see things looking like? COVID, post-COVID, like what is this kind of new normal looking like for you?
Wow, that's a big question. What is a new normal? I think there's a lot of new normal that are going to stay as the new normal for a long time. Really, we're now in our 8th month at this point with COVID really affecting this industry. and a lot has happened. And we are having so many conversations with our clients, and they're giving us feedback. They're constantly giving us feedback on what their needs are. And of course, whatever their needs were in April, it's changed. So of course, software development takes us time. It gives us, give us a couple months to develop something you need. So whatever we thought they needed in March, well, that changed already in May. So we can't just, all right, leave me alone. Let me build you something. I'll let you know when I'm done with it. No, it doesn't work that way. We constantly have to keep talking. All right, is there any changes? What's going on? And we're seeing a massive need now of parent apps, and really, it's find my bus. It's that type of things. It's really tracking my bus. And we have a great product. It's called Stop Finder. It's a product that not only lets you find the bus, track the bus, it's communication. There's so much in there. But of course, it's educating our clients, because our clients are now at this point responding to what their clients are asking for, which are the parents, mom and dad. They want to make sure. We always talk about keeping kids safe, but now today, parents have a whole nother element, this invisible enemy. And we're all worried. I want to tell you, as a parent, I'm worried too, that we want to have more visibility of what's going on with our kids, not just in school, but also on their way to school and back. So these apps are just really are going nuts. And there's so much. We're spending so much time with our clients on really educating them on what you need, right?
Tony, you're a great pitch man. Everything you're talking about right now, that's editorial that's coming up in our January 2021 magazine
Cool.
edition. But I also want to jump back to something you were talking about, the new normal becoming the new normal going forward. We have an article in our November issue that talks about purchasing trends and the fact that a lot of these folks, and we were talking about it earlier, whether it be cleaning or utilizing routing or some other technology for contact tracing, whatever it is that's now at the forefront because of COVID-19, districts are telling us, hey, we're going to continue. This is going to become our SOP going forward. I take it that's what you're seeing from your clients as well.
Definitely. And honestly, parent apps, that's been on really, it's been a huge runway the past couple of years, but now, of course, now it's front and center. The other big thing that's really started taking off within this past 8 months is attendance. So now our clients want to have a solid a way to take attendance to with an RFID card, or maybe it's a barcode reader. They want to make sure that now as a kid gets on the bus, it's automatically tracked. Now they know it. Even the seat assignment, where this kid should sit. And these things are, who knows? Are these going to become the trend forever? I think so. I think once a school district makes an investment on attendance, well, then why would you want to remove that? We've always promoted take attendance to become more efficient. You could start seeing these trend in transportation, ridership. Not every kid drove the bus. And so, of course, our clients did a great job on estimating or really overfilling a bus to make sure get the kids on a bus. But now they're realizing, man, I could get on a day-to-day basis. I could really find the trends, which areas of my district have more ridership, maybe some areas that they know that there's a lot of kids drive to school. Well, guess what? You could then put 130% of the riders on there. So this trend, I think, is going to become a norm. It's an investment for our clients, and they're going to continue doing it. Obviously, today, they're also using contact tracing. You know who's on a bus because they had to use the card. So, yeah, I definitely see this happening.
I mean, Ryan, there's still people using the map with the string. Like, it feels like nobody's doing that, but I'm sure.
Oh, they are. They are.
50%.
Yeah.
50% of the market is still doing that. So, obviously, our job, and we really pride ourselves to know everything about our clients. We want to know everything about them. We really want to know what the superintendent's dog has for dinner. That's our job. And really, we track this stuff. And 50% of school districts don't have anything. And the smaller, the more the compact size districts, they really couldn't afford to buy routing. And we changed that. We came up with a CARES Act. It's really a relief, a way to give opportunities for these compact sized school districts to afford routing software. So there's a huge trend. About 50% of the market, when we call them, they'll say, we're just too small. Why are you calling me? All right, Call them in 6 months from now, right? So we would do that. And now they're calling us. They're calling us because there's no such thing as we're too small. It's the same problem.
I think in this day and age, though, Tony, I mean, Matt Doss, who spoke at the Bus Technology Summit, he summed it up, right? Leveraging technology to mitigate legal risk. And that's a major one, right? Like, I'm too small would not count in a court of law if you don't have the appropriate technology that's available to you. I mean, Ryan, what's your thought on that? People that they're saying they're too compact or too small to afford it, but that really doesn't apply if something happens, right?
Something that legal experts have always told me and told our audiences at conferences is that will never fly in a court of law, whether it be before a judge or a jury, that you were either too small or you didn't know, whether you're talking about contractors or, routing hazards. It's that care of service and not showing any potential negligence. And Katrina Falk summed it up really well in that same Bus Technology Summit back in September. She's a small district, very rural in north central Indiana. And, I think she has, off the top of my head, a dozen or so, maybe 20 drivers. A pretty small operation, all things considering, probably pretty normal, across the nation. And she said there is no such thing as small. So one of the attendees asked her that question. And she said, we're considered a small district and we have technology galore because, Tony, you really hit on it earlier when we were talking about efficiency and utilizing technology, not just, to have it, but to, no matter what the size of your operation is, it can uncover efficiency for you. And the more that we can get away from making paper note trails, I mean, I don't know about you all, but I just have gotten to the point where I can't stand having, a plethora of notepads around because things get lost and you don't know which notepad you wrote which note in. And you really have to have a outstanding file system. And that's one of my downfalls. I've never been a very good filer. And that can really bite you in the rear. And, technology, that's just one of the things that technology can solve.
You're right.
Yeah, I mean, Teams, right? Do you guys use Microsoft Teams, Tony, at your office? Because we love Microsoft Teams
We do.
over here, right? It's a great way to track conversations with different team members, and you have this kind of communication, right? Because it's all about communication at this point between staff, between professionals, even between parents and administration, right? This communication aspect is just a major thing.
You're right. And can I tell you what I like to use? We're a Microsoft shop at Transfinder. I use OneNote like there's no end. So that it's crossed all my devices. So it's either on if I have an iPad with me, I mean, I always have my iPhone with me, of course, but I'm always taking notes. And I used to be a notepad user. So just a normal, Control R and notepad and just press enter, just launches Notepad. What I love about Notepad, it doesn't yell at you when you mistype things, but all that cool things. But yeah, technology is great. And listen, you talk about Katrina. She's a great client. And hello, Katrina. Hello out there. I tell you, at the end of the day, you know what our clients are buying? They're buying peace of mind. And you're right. No matter how big or compact you are, they still want to make sure the kids are safe. The routes are safe. The stops are safe. And that's really what we've been saying. We've been saying that software like Transfinder provides clients peace of mind. And we've been around for 32 years, been around for a long time. And, we've been talking about a company that's been around like IBM, right? We actually make some jokes about, and it's not really a joke, it's pretty serious. No one ever got fired in the past because they chose IBM. They chose the solid solution. It's IBM. I don't know if you guys have heard that before, but it's always been like that. No one gets fired because you buy Microsoft. No one does that. So this is where the peace of mind, get the brand, buy the brand stuff. And there's a lot of things out there. I know there's a cost is an issue. And that's why we came up with this CARES Act, that we want to make sure that, can we make it affordable? Can we come up with a payment plan? And we have done that. We know that money is an issue in technology, but I want clients and even non-clients of ours, of course, that want to, future clients, buy the brand, buy the company that's been around for a long time. You could never be wrong with that. Just be careful. There's a lot going on. be aware. And honestly, we're here for you if you need some questions to ask. And we're right here. Obviously, we have the CARES Act for those reasons to help you afford some of this technology that you're trying to buy.
Yeah, and Tony, with COVID-19, clearly it's changed the landscape significantly. And we were talking before about what it's going to look like when COVID subsides. And there's a lot of practices that are being put in place at the moment that would be like cleaning protocols, right? If COVID goes away, are people going to start cleaning less? I don't think so, right? My personal belief is that there are some practices that are going to remain in play long after this is over. I mean, what are you guys seeing from a technology standpoint or from your customers in terms of what are some of those kind of behavioral shifts on how people manage transportation and what new things that are being used now are going to be transferable into the future?
Great point. And listen, our clients, we've given them so many tools, especially the what if analysis. And we always talked about this. Oh, have yourself a plan B, a plan C. Well, those take a lot of time. And with our new product, Transfinder Plus, they could do it significantly faster, but it's still time. And a lot of times, our clients like, it's a lot of work. Do I really want to put the plan B and C? Well, we all learned we all have to have plan C, D, E, F, and G. So what's happened is that now our clients realize, man, I can't just have a plan A and hope for the best. It worked out okay in the past, but in the future, even after COVID, we're going to have multiple plans, and which actually I'm excited about. It really made them think. And honestly, let's face it, even for us, our own lives, we can't just think I'm going on vacation next month and that's it. You better have a plan B because maybe that vacation may not happen for a lot of reasons. Think about, cleaning restaurants. When restaurants were open in New York State, I was one of the first one to go out there. I was cooped up. My wife and I and my son were like, I've got to go out. So as soon as it was open, we went out there. And of course, it was my first experience to go out in a restaurant. And I tell you, as you sit down, everything is perfectly clean. There's a nice sign that's just sterilized and cleaned. The forks look all nice. Do you remember the time that you would go someplace, they were in front of you, they use like some wet rag, and I don't even know if that rag even dirty already? You're just wiping my table down with some rag that was already wet. I have no idea what you just washed down before you came to my. And then they would put the fork and knife on top of that table. Do you guys remember this?
Oh yeah, I know.
I don't want that to ever go back. Please, I always ask, can you give me 2 napkins, one for my silverware and one for me? Now, it's nice and clean. Those are things we're not going to go back. And I like that. There's tons of examples that I could say with technology. We're not going to go back. Parents want certain things and they're going to have it and they're not going to want to give up on it. They're actually going to want more, right?
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing Wi-Fi be one of those for sure. With regards to Wi-Fi access for student learning, we've always been preaching the school bus as access to education, but it really hasn't been taken seriously, I think. And this incident has really pointed a bright light at school buses providing Wi-Fi access. Would you agree, Ryan?
Definitely. I know that we've talked a lot about that ever since COVID-19 first came raining down on us. And what's been really interesting is that we see definitely more districts that have been maybe on the fence with Wi-Fi. They've gone to it. There were some, like we had Chris Hefezi from Austin ISD on our Bus Technology Summit talked about, were already moving forward with outfitting all of their 512 some odd buses with Wi-Fi. And then COVID-19 happened. So they were really in a really great place to go ahead and address the needs of students. But, certainly we see a lot of districts that are now giving Wi-Fi a second look. And interestingly enough, a lot of districts that already had Wi-Fi, they either are using it going forward or they're not. It really, again, comes down to the individual district. That's what we always talk about in education, across the board and certainly in transportation. What's good for one district is not necessarily good for the other. So I think we will still continue to see Wi-Fi be a good solution for some, maybe not for others for whatever reason. And then there's this promise of 5G. I know that we're already getting hit with the commercials on TV from our cell phone carriers about 5G. And the experts tell me that 5G is really not there yet. in terms of where we need it to be. It's kind of more of a still of a marketing ploy, but that is coming. And over the next couple of years, we'll really see that really take this whole concept of Wi-Fi or hotspots and just all this data that we're talking about, student tracking and whatnot, routing, that pipe, if you will, that information pipe that's going to be going out to school buses is going to be getting bigger and more robust just to enable more of that information flow. So,
I mean, Tony, what do you think about that?
Good question. What do I think about 5G? Is that I'm on the Smart City Commission here in the city of Schenectady, where our office is located. And a couple years ago, a bunch of technology people were really brought together by the mayor, and we talked about, all right, what does a smart city looks like in the future? And 5G was obviously part of our discussion. The whole concept is that I'm going to see it, and it's going to happen in a couple years, that there's going to be 5G hotspots really on light posts. They're going to be everywhere. So in order for the cities to really go to the next generation, to have video surveillance, all that, they're going to have to adapt 5G. So I'm really going to see this happening. And I feel grateful and fortunate I'm on this group of people just brainstorming on what it looks like. And by the way, City of Schenectady has also been on a national level that we're talking about this, but it's going to change. It's going to change that now city, as soon as you go out there and they see a hotspot, you're going to, on your phone, just pops up like, hey, stop at this restaurant. And how they're going to pull this off? It's very expensive. And now there's coming out with grants. You got these carriers that want to own that light pole. So I think it's going to happen fast. As you guys know, the Apple just released their new iPhone series. It's all 5G compatible. I was surprised that last year Apple released their new iPhones, very expensive, and did not have 5G. This year they did. Clearly, it's on its way, and I can't wait to be at a gig download. I can't wait. Guys, you want to talk about Wi-Fi? What about home? I want to bring this up because, it's something we took it for granted. As a technology person, I always felt like I better get good internet because, I don't want people to come to my house saying, hey, what's up? What do you have, dial-up still over here? So I have a decent home internet, but you need browser products, and I think this is where I hope everyone's investing in technology, whether it's personal use or for business or for schools. Get products that use a browser, whether it's browser or it's a mobile device, because at that point, we have outages still. I don't know about you guys. I mean, there's sometimes and the storms are coming, and all of a sudden our internet is, and we can't rely at the office. A lot of us are still working from home, and we rely on this thing. So, man, I'm looking forward to just a constant couple terabytes download, right? What do you think?
yeah, I mean, I think that 5G at home, it's got this promise, and there's going to be so much that we can do. And what I hear from a lot of student transporters is, what does this really mean, though, to me driving the bus or my drivers, my students on the bus? And I brought up an analogy. We had actually had a smart cities expert from Utah Department of Transportation on the bus technology summit in September. And we were talking about kind of what's coming. He's done a lot of research, Blaine, over there in Utah. And he talked about some of the smart city initiatives, obviously China and Singapore, places like that, Schenectady, New York. They're way out in front of this. So I think that it's an educational issue, right? And that's what you're doing, Tony. You're sharing from a technology wizard's, standpoint. Hey, this is all this stuff that you are seeing kind of behind the curtain, and this is what's possible. An analogy that I presented in that Let's Talk chat discussion was, think of a day, hopefully sooner rather than later, when a school bus comes to a stop, the lights go on, the yellows to the reds, and the stop arm comes out, the loading door comes out, and then on all the cars around them, automatically on their dash or maybe in their windshield, an alert pops up. School bus stopped ahead, come to a complete stop now. Those are the kind of things that 5G potentially could do, that smart cities could potentially do for us. So that right there, I hope brought it home a little bit of like, this is not just pie in the sky stuff, folks.
No, it's happening. It's happening right now. And I tell you that, so the whole thing is, it's actually not that expensive. We've determined that a lot of these cities are going to go through a huge transition on replacing these lights to LEDs. A lot of municipalities have not done that yet. So once you have somebody up there and change the light bulb, which is going to save you so much money, well, that money that you're going to save clearly is going to go someplace else. And on top of that, you're going to put some sort of a beacon there. You're going to put some sort of device there. And I tell you, This is going to change everything. And it's coming, because I tell you, the smart school bus will happen. It's happening already, but it's technology and it's data. It's tend to be expensive. It's going to drive the cost of everything down, which is going to be affordable. So I super agree with you that I can't wait to see that. Tell you, it's around the corner. It's going to be in this decade here.
Yeah. Hey, Tony, we have a new sponsor this week on the podcast. We have Cummins Engine, and they have extraordinary expertise in innovation and support for a world that's always on. The Cummins EPA 2021 B6.7 is one of the most dependable, durable, and reliable medium-duty engines available. It has been tested and proven with more than 12 million engines produced over nearly 40 years with billions, I said billions of miles driven. These figures aren't just milestones either. They represent years of experience learning and optimizing the product into what they produce today. The most reliable B6.7 Cummins has ever built. They're proud of this history and proud that Cummins medium duty products power more school buses in operation across North America than any other engine. Go to www.cummins.com/engines/school-bus to learn more about Cummins in the school bus market. Well, Ryan, I want to talk to you a little more about what's going on with the wildfires. That still seems to be dominating headlines. California, Colorado, Oregon just got out of that. What are we seeing right now on that front?
Well, the folks in Colorado, I mean, the fires there's a couple fires that are just consuming the Rocky Mountains there. A couple people killed, estimated almost like $200 million in damages last we saw on Friday. Obviously, just the acrid smoke and displacing people. I know it hit really close to home for one of our friends, Susan Miller, who's the state director of the Colorado Department of Education. She had to evacuate her home and was unable, as a result, to really commit to being a speaker at our TSD virtual next week. So hopefully everything is okay with her and her family. But right now, too, we're choking on smoke down here in Southern California again. There's a fire not too far from us. So, it just seems like 2020 can't get any worse. Than last week, we unfortunately had a student and a bus driver killed in Tennessee in a crash. Our hearts go out to the families involved and to all of our friends and loved ones in Tennessee. I know they were really saddened by that turn of events. Then the stock market for the last 5 days last week were really kind of tanking, some of the worst results since really this pandemic began. And it's really stemming out of the reclosures that we're seeing across Europe right now. So there's a lot of fear that that's going to start happening here in the US. And, lo and behold, of course, as we were recording this podcast, it was a couple days before our election. By the time that you all are hearing this, we might have a winner. We will have to wait and see. The jury's going to be out on that one. But really, depending on whoever does win the presidency, there is a lot of anxiety about what course of action will be taken. Are we going to continue to reopen? Some people might think it's too fast. Or on the other hand, is it going to be more reactionary measures where things are closing down? A lot of that uncertainty has fueled a lot of the uncertainty in the stock market. Speaking of elections, picked up on an interesting report last week by the 74million.org, which is a nonprofit and nonpartisan news site covering education in the U.S. And they reported late last month that, surprise, surprise, research is suggesting that politics rather than science are driving the responses to education models that are being employed. Michael Hartney is a political scientist at Boston College and one of the authors of the study published by the Annenberg Institute at Brown University, said that red states with a lot of Trump supporters have reopened school when local COVID-19 cases dictate maybe they shouldn't. Meanwhile, blue states have tended to go to virtual learning when the virus proliferation in their areas say kids should actually be going back to in-person classes. A previous study by the Brookings Institution's Brown Center on Education Policy found that there was absolutely, quote unquote, no relationship between each locality's decision and its per capita COVID-19 cases. It also points out that the prevalence of teachers and school bus driver unions in non-right to work states are affecting more virtual only decisions than there are when there is no collective bargaining. And the larger the district, a lot of the research suggests they have the more powerful unions, they're more apt to go virtual. Some took to social media to criticize this study, and others saying that the larger districts could also face greater logistical and infrastructure challenges, including transportation, which might dictate the need to remain in virtual. That said, there are now over 9 million confirmed COVID-19 cases, and infections are rising in 42 states. One of our correspondents, David Voles, last week caught up with Broward County School Superintendent Robert Runcie at a morning event, and he asked Superintendent Runcie about what was going on there in Broward. And Runcie told him that efforts being made to sanitize bus interiors and classrooms. Only about 20% of the huge district's students have returned to class so far. Many students and their parents are uncomfortable returning to school, and some families actually prefer e-learning. Also, because there are more and more cases in Broward County, they may have to shut down schools again. So to your point, Tony, you mentioned earlier, a lot of the cities that have reopened, they're looking to reclose, and it comes back all full circle to a lot of these anxiety that people have. And, it really comes down to preference again. I mean, we hear reports of a lot of parents who are fearful and they want to keep their kids out. And then you go to another district and you hear the opposite. So, hopefully we have some more answers over the coming weeks as we get a little bit closer to the dawning of 2021.
Yeah, it's one of those things, Ryan. I think no matter what we have, this kind of, I called it it's like a transportation twister, right? Like we're on one circle, we move to the next circle. You like twist and turn and contort, and you're just asked to do so much these days. And it's quite crazy times for transportation as well as the schools trying to really figure out what path they're going to take. And there's no straight line anymore. It's very kind of topsy-turvy. So, and there's been a lot of discussion about, schools. And I know Taylor Hannon talked about it last week. There was the Wall Street Journal op-ed as well as the podcast talking about schools. Are they kind of the super spreader, or is it school buses, right? And there's just a lot of discussion. And one of the researchers, Emily Oyster from Brown University, had basically had some research that we touched on that basically said that there wasn't a strong enough correlation, and then that any COVID-19 cases doesn't mean necessarily that they got those from school, that may have been contracted at a different point and different time. So, there's just a lot of really unique factors that come into it. And there was a webinar recently that I sat in on. Tim Ammon was on it, and he talked a little bit about, school response and creating a dashboard. And Tim wrote us a little bit of a statement. He was going to jump on the podcast, but unfortunately could not make it. He just said, doing an analysis on existing conditions to determine whether additional or different mitigation strategies are warranted, and to provide an educated estimate of what the impact will be on infection rates. It also, really unique aspects, offers a chance for districts that are transitioning their educational practices from full remote to hybrid, from hybrid to full on-site, to see what the experience of other districts has been. And this can help us advocate for particular practices that allow us to protect the key resources of drivers and monitors, as well as we continue to provide other services. He went on to say that, over the last couple of weeks, that transportation operations have shown that they're not immune to the virus, and districts across the country have fully or partially suspended service as a result of COVID-19 infections. And consequently, it's on us to ensure that we're doing everything we can to educate and advocate for strategies that provide the greatest possible opportunity for us to continue service while protecting transportation staff. So, that just comes back down to, I think, bottom line, we have to work with our administrators. We have to work with the schools to be sure that they're aware of how the implications of transporting kids on school buses impacts the ecosystem, right, Ryan? Wouldn't you agree with that?
Yeah, certainly. And something that I've seen a lot of conversation about on our Facebook page is school bus drivers talking about not knowing when one of their kids contracts the virus. They suddenly, the kid is removed from the route and they don't know which kid. And this comes back to things that Matt Doss was talking about at Bus Technology Summit with HIPAA rules and whatnot and the FERPA. And there's certain information that can't be shared, but there is certain information that can be shared. And maybe you can't tell the specific student who contracted the virus, but are you working with your school attorneys to figure out what exactly can you tell your bus drivers to keep them in the know? That goes right hand in hand with this school bus driver shortage and the outreach and the culture of the department, of the district, of the bus company. Sharing of information, yes, certainly there's some things that we cannot give specifics on, but we also can't be leaving people in the dark. So I know that's causing a lot of anxiety. And to this point they were talking about with the school response dashboard, all of our audience, you can read a little bit more about this in our November issue. If you head over to page 34, must have back to school during a pandemic. Do schools have what they need? We talk about this COVID-19 school response dashboard. It's a collaborative effort between the School Superintendents Association, the National Association of Elementary School Principals, and the National Association of Secondary School Principals, with the help you mentioned earlier, Tony Brown University. So this tool is out there and it is being used, and you can find more information on where to go to check that out in the November issue.
Wonderful. Ryan, you touched on it just a little bit, and I want to toss it back to Mr. Tony Civitella here. Driver shortages, things that we're facing. I know Transfinder participated in a webinar recently, and there was some conversation about driver shortages and kind of maybe some big takeaways that came out of that webinar. Tony, you want to share with us a little bit about that?
I would love to. And really something that some of our clients have talked about in this past, because obviously driver shortage has always been there, but it's called sharing resources. Maybe there's a way that you could, so now schools are trying to work together. Maybe there's a shortage in driver, there's a substitute driver. Well, let's get it from the neighboring school district. Maybe there's a group of drivers that they are substitutes for multiple school districts. So they're getting creative, and we have to. Maybe there's a way to, maybe instead of having one school have a boatload of buses that are just sitting on the lot for just in case. Well, how about if they do this as a shared concept? So they're really getting creative, and that's really makes sense. Which, by the way, then you need technology, right? You need technology. You can't just all of a sudden call up a driver and say, hey, Michelle, we need you to drive a bus that's not in your neighborhood. So now you need technology, and we're talking about how do we give them a navigation app? How do we give them right on an iPad or really a tablet that could potentially be installed on a bus? So now a driver could drive any bus, any location, because they're going to use their training, but now they're going to use their step-by-step instruction, how to go from one stop to another. You'll know that it's safe, the students getting picked up on the right-hand side, all that good thing. So lots going on. And these are back to those questions about what do you think is going to happen, this new normal. This new normal, some of these things are going to be the normal.
Yeah, it's interesting. Tony, we were talking about it before. It's that shared resource. I mean, what if somebody's using Transfinder in a neighboring district? Like, is there a seamlessness about them using it versus, if you're going to them and, the route sheets in between, is there some way that the softwares can talk to each other?
They definitely can. And some of our clients do. I mean, obviously, it's based on licensing. So if they just want someone else to have full access to their data, just go ahead and do it. So they're completely transparent. But also our data, because it's two separate clients, our data will definitely interchange between the two. They could export data, they could import it. And these are things that it's from the same product. It's from the same company. So there's a lot going on here. I'm seeing that more and more. I really think so. I'm seeing that, especially now with the bus contractors, of course. You have a bus contractor could have multiple school districts that they're serving. So clearly they have to keep it all secured, but also they're using the resources across the board. So that's already happening. And it just makes sense that now you're talking about how school districts are really becoming adapt to this kind of sharing resources.
Yeah. That's really great information. And then, Tony, before we wrap it up, can you give us a little more information? If someone's interested in taking advantage of the Transfinder CARES Act, what's that next step? Who do they reach out to?
Well, you could call us, of course. We're reaching out to all of our clients or our website, transfinder.com. But really, the most important thing is that we are giving our clients and really even new clients an opportunity to have a low cost onboarding process and then really we come up with a payment plan. And we've also have adjusted our prices for those compact school districts that we really didn't go after in the past. Every time we made some phone calls, they always told us that we're too small, we're not that big, we're never going to have routing software. Well, guess what? Those are the school districts that are calling us right now, and we recognize that our price has to make sense for them. And obviously, there's a lot that they could benefit. It's the peace of mind that a compact, or a very large school district gets from routing software from us. So, a lot going on with the CARES Act, and we felt that was an important thing to have, and we're proud of it. Our clients and our prospects, they want new, better, and modern software and routing software, and really recognize that during this pandemic and financial stress on everybody, how we make it easy for them to onboard our products. And thank you again. We getting the most innovative software from last month. It's super excited. We're still doing the virtual hot fives, by the way.
It's all right. Yeah, for Tony's mention in the Bus Technology Summit, the users voted and Transfinder was awarded the most innovative software of Bus Technology Summit. So congratulations to you, Tony. Thanks for jumping on the podcast. Really appreciate you. And Ryan Gray, and congratulations to Todd Watkins, Transportation Director of the Year, Montgomery County in Maryland. Special thanks to our episode sponsors, Transfinder, Zonar, and Cummins. We love you, listeners. Subscribe. Tell your friends about the podcast. You can stream the podcast on Spotify, Apple. You can also check out stnpodcast.com. Visit stnonline.com for your news, analysis, and all aspects on student transportation. Remember to check out our new November issue as well. That is on the website. You can find it on our homepage or click the magazine tab to check that out. TSD Virtual is also coming up 9th through the 11th of November. $199 to participate. Go check that out, tsdconference.com. We love you, School Transportation Nation. We'll see you next time.